we talk life, what makes it rich and worthwhile, the things that matter most, and the challenges we all face. All to answer one question: what makes life worthy? I'm your host, Amaris Gonzalez, and welcome to LifeWorthee, the podcast. Hey fam, welcome to a solo episode on LifeWorthee, the podcast. The podcast was developed with the idea that storytelling is a gift to others and a gift to ourselves. And so I hope that me sharing parts of my story and interviews from other guests, that we are learning and growing in community. We're growing together and hopefully enhancing our lives and becoming better people for ourselves and creating a life that we really love. And so, without giving me the opportunity to continue rambling, I'm just going to jump right in. For the first time in a long time, I can say that I love my life. And no, that does not mean that life is perfect and I've achieved everything that I've ever dreamed of, at least not yet. But I will say the one thing I have in abundance is peace. More specifically, inner peace. And this is what gives me the confidence to say that I love my life. And so as I work toward all the things I'd like to accomplish, what grounds me is this sense of peace. Despite external circumstances, my inner turmoil came from my internal battles. Something I didn't quite pay attention to before. And all the things that I needed to work through and discover and own who I am was the work that needed to be done to create this sense of calm and sense of stability. And now that I've done some of the work, like there's always work to be done, I've noticed that whether a problem arises, big or small, it doesn't shake me anymore. I mean, maybe a little, but it's not debilitating, right? And so, yes, it may hurt or even cause frustration, but my reactions are not extreme or as extreme as they used to be. And everybody has reasons for their reactions and how they respond to things. So unstable emotions, bouts of anxiety, or even lack of clarity does not follow me around like a looming rainy cloud anymore. They're simply hurdles that I've learned to navigate. This took time, so much time, and I'm still not done. I have so many tools in my toolbox to move forward and grow. Activating those tools came down to a decision, and I decided I wanted to be aware. I wanted to be aware of people, places, and things that affect me. Building awareness, it also meant creating space for acceptance. And let me tell you, acceptance is not easy. Acceptance of myself, of others, and the role everything plays in my life. So now, thinking about that on a large scale, it's a tall order and it can feel quite overwhelming, right? Like, where do you begin? But here's the thing. I worked on piecing together a good life, bit by bit. Small doses, if you will. It was hard, but the things that are worth it in life hardly come easy. So, yeah, take this as an introduction to the small segments we get to discuss on the platform. And today, that segment is going to be about awareness. So, let's get into it. As you listen in, you'll hear more about how awareness was the beginning of my life's ownership. For now, I wanted to share this quote as food for thought. By becoming self-aware, you gain ownership of reality. In becoming real, you become the master of inner and outer life. How has self-awareness shaped your life? Share with us. Tag us at LifeWorthee on Instagram, TikTok, or Facebook and share your thoughts. Thank you for this podcast moment. Back to the show. Okay, so let's break this down. I found 2 definitions for awareness, and here's what it said. It said, awareness is the knowledge or perception of a situation or fact, And that was the first definition. And then the second definition says concern about and well-informed interest in a particular situation or development. So why is that important? Why is it important to have a vested interest or understanding of what's going on? Like how does having awareness create a foundation for developing a life worth living, right? Because that's what LifeWorthee is about. How to make life worthy. And I hope it's as obvious as it sounds, LifeWorthee. And the reason why awareness was my starting point, while I wasn't sure, or while I didn't know that was the starting point, I've come to learn that building my awareness was the beginning of creating stability and this sense of calm. And I felt like I had so much inner conflict and inner chaos that I couldn't even focus. I couldn't even do my job and then think about home life and then think about my dreams and then think about how to survive, right? Pay the bills. And everybody's worried about these things in some capacity. But for me, I couldn't quite get my ducks in a row. And so why it was important to use awareness as my foundation is because it was allowing me to really take a step back and think about and literally visually see the things that I'm experiencing. And that gave me the opportunity to say, yes, I enjoy this part of my experience. No, I don't enjoy this part of my experience. I don't understand what I'm feeling in this experience. It's causing confusion, right? So I'm really tapping into maybe some really simple and basic emotions. But when I was glazing over those emotions, I really couldn't figure out how to move forward. I really felt like I was on this little pinwheel, not pinwheel, hamster wheel, wrong wheel, right? So I felt like I was on this hamster wheel and it was never ending. I was just doing the thing over and over, doing what I had to do because I needed to do it, but not really evaluating the environments that I'm stepping into, the environments I'm staying in, the environments that I'm leaving or investing in. Truly, environment has such a huge impact on how I feel about myself as an individual, how I felt supported in my own personal and work community. Just having an understanding about how the outside world affects me, my emotions, my capacity, mental, physical, any of that, it made a huge difference. So why is awareness a good foundation? Because it's a good way to just kind of take a step back and observe. And so building awareness, I feel like, is super important if you are feeling stuck, if you are feeling unclear, if you feel like you're going through the motions, or if you feel like you're kind of walking or running in patterns through your life that just don't seem to be doing it for you, right? And that's the beginning. And so I will start with a story of when I had my aha moment. And I wouldn't say this is a good aha. I wouldn't say it's a bad aha either, but when I had an aha moment as to something needs to change, right? And there were so many things that were playing into the fact that something needed to change for me. I would say that in my professional career, I have fallen into work. I have fallen into my experience. I did not pursue it intentionally. I fell into some of the spaces that I now occupy. And I want to say I'm incredibly grateful for the people that I've met, the relationships that I've formed, the mentors that I've gained through it all. It's been incredible. And those are the things that I really love and appreciate about my journey thus far. But there was a sense for me that I just wasn't growing. And I think for a while I wasn't pursuing growth intentionally. I was just going with the flow. And yeah, that works sometimes when you're in a state in your life where flow is what you need so that you can create ease. But when all you're doing is going with the flow, you're not giving yourself direction. You're not creating priorities. And and goals seem to kind of just phase in and out of your flow, right? And so I got to this point where I was like craving a challenge. I was craving a change. I was craving the ability to tap into my creative side, right? I wanted to step outside of what I know I do well, and I wanted to do better, but on my own terms, not on the basis of what I've learned through work, what I've learned through life so far. Like, I was really ready to develop myself, and I really felt stuck. And I hope this doesn't sound too vague. I hope folks aren't like, give me specifics. I'm not ready for it, y'all. Like, this is vulnerable enough to start, okay? But I think what was important was that I acknowledged that feeling. Something was missing, and what I could do is keep going through the motions, and I could keep working on the things that might set me on the same path, and maybe that would have brought me fulfillment, but I just wasn't feeling that. I felt like I want to be more creative. I want to make more money. I want to have more flexibility. I'm a mom, right? Like, I want to be there with my son. I want to not worry about certain things getting in the way of me living my life. And I think at that point, when I had this aha moment, it was really me realizing that life is being at this point quite inflexible. And it was kind of saddening, and I didn't know what it was. I was like, what am I passionate about? What do I leave work with that I'm excited about, and what are the things that are looming over like a rainy cloud that makes it hard for me to get there, right? And so this was all me trying to make myself self-aware, and I'm gonna be honest, I wasn't ready to be aware. I wanted to sit in the lap of ignorance and just be, because to be honest, like to make yourself aware means that you've got to break down your habits, you've got to break down your flaws, you've got to break down your relationships, whether that's platonic, romantic, familial, like whatever those things are. You've got to break them all down and pick them apart, and then you've got to own your part that you played in those spaces. Your work relationships, your work environment. And that's not easy to face yourself. You think it'd be easy, like, let me just do a little Issa Rae, talk to myself in the mirror and just like work through it and I'll be good. But that's not, I wish it was that simple, right? And I think it's scary. For me, it was scary. It was scary to be like, you could have done better. You could have done more. You should have rested more. You should have asked more questions. You should have went on more coffee dates with mentors to learn about different pathways. You should have. And that could be the narrative of your story. Coulda, woulda, shoulda. And I think in the beginning of trying to like dissect your life, that's what it's going to sound like, right? You're going to be really hard on yourself. I don't know what it is about us humans, but we're hard on ourselves when we don't need to be. Like, we're great people, okay? I'm going to say it for you in case you don't say it for yourself. We're great people. And for some reason, we don't give ourselves enough grace. But that's another topic for another episode. And so for me, that piece of understanding how to be aware meant acceptance, which is something I mentioned earlier, right? It meant that, okay, I'm aware that because let me see if I can come up with a great example. Maybe not a so great example, and a simple example will do just fine. But for example, I'm unhappy in a relationship because we're not communicating. And if we're not communicating, I can't express my needs and I can't provide my partner with their needs. So this is like a really general example. I wouldn't say super specific to me, but I think it's a good one, right? It's something that people deal with in their romantic and relationships and other relationships also. Communication is just one of those things, right? So you have to own your part, right? Did you accept the fact that you aren't getting your needs met? Yes. Did you stay in that situation despite your needs not getting met? Yes. Did you come up with other solutions to work through that or to satisfy that need for yourself? No? Oh man, there it is. Like I didn't think of the next step and how to move forward and how to move through that. And that's it for awareness. That's the work. Like, in my own reflection, owning my part opened doors to new beginnings and forward movement even. I now view how I interact with people and the world differently. What's your take? What does it mean to take ownership of your part? Tag us at LifeWorthee and share your thoughts on Instagram, TikTok, or Facebook. Back to the show. The next steps is a whole nother podcast episode, right? Like, awareness is, I feel like for me, an observation and an acknowledgement, right? I have impacted my own life through my own choices, and others have also impacted me through their choices. And I did X, Y, and Z to address this, or I didn't do X, Y, and Z to address this, to feel what? To feel better, to feel relief, to feel peace, to feel, right? And so I think I was at a point prior to me beginning this stage of observing, of like a lot of like, why me? Why would someone do this? Why can't I have the same opportunities? Why? And granted, there are barriers. There are systemic barriers in the workplace and in education. There are barriers in relationships when if you're not on the same page or in a different phase in your life, others are going to react to different situations on their own way and in their own time. And there's that acceptance. You have to accept that. Like, it has to be okay that other people and other places are not where you are at, because what that does is gives you the mobility that you need to place yourself in spaces that will give you what you need. But you'll stay stuck. You'll stay stuck if you're not willing to accept the circumstances around you, if you're not willing to move forward. And it doesn't mean that job opportunity doesn't come back around, that person doesn't come back around, or that opportunity to buy a house doesn't come back around, right? It's just that you have to accept what the circumstances are and then think about what are your resources and the things that can support you in it. And so I find that awareness is a foundational step to evaluating where you are and where you want to be. And sometimes we're moving through life and we're not evaluating that. We're not checking in with ourselves. We're not saying, okay, am I in a good place? Am I where I want to be? And sometimes the answer is yes and yes. And sometimes the answer is yes, I'm in a good place, but no, I'm not where I want to be. Or I'm where I want to be, but I'm not in a good place. I'm not ready for this opportunity, even though it's here. And I want it so bad, but I don't have or feel the things I need to feel to be successful in that pursuit. Yeah, so that's like my little tidbit about awareness. And let me tell you that challenging yourself to move through awareness and acceptance will be the best thing you've ever done for yourself. At least in creating pathways, right? Because it makes you feel, at least for me, how about this? I will speak for myself. It allows me to feel unstuck. And I think that one of the things that was really exciting for me, even though I wasn't getting the results I wanted right away, it was like acknowledging the fact that, okay, this doesn't feel good, but I don't have to stay here. I don't have to be here. I don't have to involve myself in this experience if I don't want to. Maybe it sucks right now, but if I figure out a plan, I can move out of it. Whether that means getting a certification so that I have the skills I need to move into another place, evaluating friendships and relationships to see how much time and energy I actually want to invest in others, or whether that means like I want to finish a painting and I'm going to spend 15 minutes a night, even though, because that's all the energy I have. It's me giving myself permission to move forward instead of bogging myself down with the why is this happening, or I have no idea what to do. And in building awareness and kind of creating those pathways for yourself, you still may not know what you're doing. And that's okay. It needs to be okay, because if you're worried about doing things perfectly, you will be paralyzed, or maybe not. Maybe some people are really great at being perfectionists. I know I am not. I like things done well, but I'm not. I will be paralyzed overthinking about like why I'm stuck, or like I'm doing this, but I don't know what the outcome is. I just have to go, I'm doing this. I'm going for that hike. I'm going for that walk. I'm letting myself cry. Even though that's not an answer, but it's a release of emotions that can calm me so that I can have a clear mind. Like, I'm not going to fight the things that I need anymore. And I think that's what awareness brought me closer to, right? It's closer to my needs being met. And when I tell you, that's maybe one of the biggest things that have created such a good life for me. It really has been impactful, right? Like, my needs are being met. I'm figuring out for myself how to do that, how to self-soothe, how to make more money, how to get a new skill, how to maintain better friendships, how to let go of relationships or friendships that aren't serving me, or how to make space for new things to enter, how to let go. Like, I'm sorry. I didn't blank. I'm just in such agreement with what I'm saying. It's almost like I'm acknowledging all the work that I've done, and I've experienced it in every way, in all capacities, right? So I will say that it opens doors. And so my challenge for you all after this episode is really to just observe. And one thing that I will say, okay, yes, I just want you all to observe your surroundings, observe your reactions, observe the internal chaos, right? Like, man, this is really hard for me. This is bringing up a lot. Why is that? What is it that's happening? Question it. Make yourself aware of how you're feeling and sit with it, right? One thing that has been incredibly powerful for me in my life as I've grown and transitioned into new phases was that I saw alternative perspectives. This included talking to my friends, right? But this also included like an unbiased perspective. And so I attended therapy. I've had 2 therapists in the last 4 years with different styles, and they both have impacted the way that I perceive my emotions, how I understand what I need. And one of the best things that I've learned from those sessions was to be curious. And I would say that was later in life, like not when I first started therapy, but I feel like once I moved through a lot of really hard things, once I was able to kind of push through some of that trauma, right? Because we all have it in some way. I got to a point where I was talking to a therapist about being prepared to take on these emotions. I said, I want to be preventative. Like, I want to be prepared. I want to prevent bouts of depression. I want to prevent extreme emotional like outbursts. And I wasn't like having temper tantrums and stomping on the floor or anything, but it would be really hard sometimes. Like, life is crazy. Life be lifing, let me tell you. And just to be watching a movie and bawling uncontrollably felt excessive, okay? And you know what? I'm a crier. I love a good cry when I watch a show or a movie. But there were times where these emotions felt excessive and they didn't feel like they were in my control, right? And so I went to therapy a second time around and told this therapist that I wanted to really like know how to use my tools, right? So that I can redirect myself and I can figure things out, to have this like stable inner peace. And she always said, when you are dealing with a frustrating or challenging moment, when you're feeling overwhelmed, when you're having like these extreme emotions, where are you feeling it in your body? One. And it was strange. Like, I was feeling it in my arms, or I'd feel like heaviness in my chest, and never thought about connecting my body and my emotions. But it's a thing, right? Where everything is connected. And then she said, if things are unclear, to be curious. Ask myself questions. If I'm getting really frustrated or angry in a conversation, ask myself, who am I surrounded by? What kind of tone is someone using? What kind of reaction am I getting or giving? What is the pace of the day, right? Like, have I been moving without a moment to spare? Have I been moving slow all day with, like, ask these questions to really investigate what's going on with you. And it took me out of an highly emotional state to a more logical state. And I will say both are necessary. I think it's not okay to be too logical, and I think it's not okay to be too emotional. But if you can find a balance between the two, you can really figure out what you need. And that built an awareness in my life. Like, I was aware that I don't work well with people who do X, Y, and Z, or who aren't listening to ABC, right? But I do great with people who are, I don't know, with people who communicate in this way, right? Like, I'm sorry if that's not a great example, but all I'm saying is that I was becoming aware of the things that make me tick and the things that give me life, that give me energy, that energize me. And so how do I get more energy? It went from me having these like really intense emotions to figuring out, okay, this emotion is happening because I was in this environment, I was having this kind of conversation, and then how can I transition it to work for me? And it doesn't mean that you're being manipulative. It doesn't mean that you're doing something bad. To have something work for you means that you are in your power, right? And so if you're having tough conversations and you're noticing that certain tones or certain things that you say or certain things that someone else says like diverts the conversation, then I was able to then think about, what has this person been receptive to in terms of communication, so that I get my oh no. Okay, so the camera overheated. It cut me off a little bit, but I believe what I was saying, if I can remember, was that observing, okay, basically just checking in with your environment, your emotions, how you're feeling, how your body is reacting, allows you to figure out how you manage interactions moving forward. And if this environment and space is good for you, right? If any environment and space is good for you, that could even be your home. Are you aware of how your home makes you feel? How does it smell? Is it cozy? Is it messy? Are there endless piles of laundry, which I feel like everybody feels like there are, but still, how does your home welcome you, and how does that affect your mood? These little things really make a difference, because if there are unsolvable problems, which I don't think there are unsolvable problems, but if there are unsolvable problems in the moment, what you come home to also is like a relief from that space, so that you can build in clarity for your own mental health and to build capacity, right? So I feel like the camera overheating and shutting off kind of threw me off a little bit, but I will reiterate what I am challenging everyone to do. So thinking about awareness, think about what it means. Look up the definition if you need to. And I want you to observe yourself, your environment, your surroundings, and your reactions. And I just want you to be curious. I want you to think about your needs, and just think about it, and start with just acknowledging what's happening within you and around you. And I feel like awareness is a good step one if you're thinking about changing your life in any way. And so that's my little solo episode, and my first tidbit of, I guess, advice. It was really just me drawing on my experiences and sharing with you all. And so I hope that you challenge yourself to be aware, or to try to be aware of what's affecting you. And I want you to keep in mind the things that are good. The good things in your life should stay or grow or be enhanced, right, in some way, so that you can feel like there's something that you can hold on to, or there's something that is meaningful to you. Not everything is a bad thing or a negative experience. Not every environment is associated with a bad experience. I want you to recognize what energizes you and brings you joy. And, let me know. Let me know how trying to develop an awareness of yourself, others, and your environment has affected you, how it's impacted you. This challenge takes time, whether it's 1 week, whether it's 1 month, whether it's 1 day. Your observations matter. They're meaningful. And I guarantee, if you are just taking a moment to step back and be curious about what you're feeling on the inside, what you're experiencing on the outside, and being really real with yourself about what you do and don't want to experience for yourself and for others, you'll be on the right path, on the right track to create change. And so that is me saying that awareness was the first step to building a good life. Until next time, I'll catch you on the next episode of LifeWorthee, the podcast. Thank you for listening in on this solo episode. I'm so glad you're here. If you like this episode, please like, share, and leave a 5-star review. This helps others find the show and share the message. If you plan on sticking around a bit longer, subscribe to get notified for what's coming up next. And as always, see you next time on LifeWorthee, the podcast.